All right. The divisional weekend is through. The divisional round has been completed. And we are going to react to the four very different, unique, but ultimately entertaining games from this past weekend in the NFL. So we went from 8 teams to four. Our conference championship weekends are set. And let's talk about how we exactly got there. My name is Matt Brown, and I'm the host of the Productive Conversations podcast on all podcast platforms and YouTube. And don't forget to check out exclusive content regarding the show across all social media platforms. We're on Instagram at Productive Conversations Podcast, X at Pod, TikTok at Pod, Facebook at Productive Conversations, and also just check us out on all podcast platforms and YouTube. So we're here to discuss the divisional round of the playoff. We are going to go through all four games, 2 Saturday, 2 Sunday, and briefly hit on the conference championship weekends. But I'll tell you in a second, will be more detail with that later in the week. But ultimately, the four games I liked, the first two games on Saturday were pretty entertaining. The Sunday afternoon game was so difficult to watch. And then we ended it off on Sunday night with another thriller. So a very interesting weekend indeed. I'm intrigued by these Final Four teams. And let's get into it in a second, but I just want to give you some programming notes. What you have available right now is a preview of the College Football National Championship, the final picks between me and Ryan as we look ahead to Indiana versus Miami, the national championship in college football. See who's going to go out on top. Either the revitalized program in the University of Miami on their home turf, or we'll look ahead and see if the University of Indiana completes a perfect season, wins their first title in football, and everybody can celebrate that. So me and Ryan have that previewed for you, and we talk about why we think a certain school will win, why a certain school won't win, etc., etc. So that's going to be available right now. We have the reaction to the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. And then on Tuesday, we have a tweet cap where we recap what was trending throughout the past weekend across sports, news, entertainment, and culture. And we are going to do a UFC preview. We have UFC 324 at the end of the week. This Saturday, the first UFC event on Paramount Plus. That will be previewed by Jose Endolo and will be available to you on Wednesday. Thursday, we have a conference championship. We have a conference championship weekend preview where we'll preview the AFC and NFC championships. Spoiler: the Patriots versus the Broncos, and the Seahawks versus the Rams. And then on Friday, we will cap it off with another tweet cap as we talk about what's trending in the week ahead. So show every day this week, show every day this week on this holiday week with Martin Luther King Jr. weekend, a short week, all of that. And let's keep the momentum going. So here we are, you and me right here, right now. Let's react and talk about the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. Game one on Saturday night, Saturday late evening, Saturday night. In the AFC, we had the Denver Broncos take on the Buffalo Bills. A heartbreaking finish for Buffalo and a bittersweet victory for Denver. The Broncos advanced to the AFC Championship for the first time since 2015, and they got there ultimately by winning by a score of 33-30 in overtime. So they were able to get the victory. It did end up with a massive cost because Bo Nix suffered a season-ending ankle injury. Ultimately, the key highlights included the overtime interception, the one everybody's going to be talking about for a long time. Hashtag Cooks caught it. But after the Bills forced OT with a last-second field goal, Josh Allen threw a deep ball that was intercepted by the quarterback in Jaquan McMillan, and his turnover set the stage for Denver's winning drive. And for a game that was mostly not called, is for a game that was fair at first, not clean, but they weren't calling anything. They let these players play, which we like to see. And in the playoffs, they let these players play. But the final drive had two massive defensive pass interferences against Buffalo, totaling 48 total yards. And it led them to having Denver kick a chip shot field goal to win the game. Will Lutz nails the 23-yarder, and they're now heading to the AFC Championship in Denver. But yeah, then we, after hanging out, see the post game, we right before, this was specifically before, um or it was like during the first quarter of Seattle and San Francisco, where we get the news that Bo Nix has a broken ankle, season's over. No one saw that coming. And that is absolutely heartbreaking for Denver. And then, I mean, it was ultimately more heartbreaking for the Bills with Josh Allen, who I think this whole country wanted to see win the Super Bowl, go all the way, get Buffalo to their first Super Bowl since '94 and actually win it. But you're gonna have to wait another year at least, at the minimum, because he played poorly. He had 2 interceptions and 2 fumbles, and despite getting solid yardage, um, Allen wasn't able to seal the deal, and you saw how upset he was. And he said it himself. Quote, "You don't deserve to win football games shooting yourself in the foot." End quote. We'll give credit to this Broncos defense, who did force 5 takeaways, including the big strip sack by Nick Bonito early in the second half. I think that was a crucial game point in the game. And now the Broncos are moving on, and Buffalo is unfortunately sad. And the 2 ways to go with this, right? This was a entertaining game. It was really fun. I think it's fair to say the maybe the best out of the 4 games of this weekend. It obviously competes with the other Sunday night game with the Bears and the with Chicago and LA. But yeah, I saw this game, and yeah, the Bills just played so poorly towards the end of the stretch, specifically on defense. Their offense held their own. They scored 30 points against a really good defense. James Cook, a 100-yard rushing game, you will take that. But despite having a touchdown in the game, Keon Coleman had a poor game. Didn't facilitate the tight ends like they usually do on the Bills offense. And yeah, you can't win the game if you turn over the ball. And Josh Allen was really struggling with that. And this defense gave him a problem. And even though they themselves won't be talking praise, and they won't be happy that they gave up so many points on defense, it ultimately went to the better team in that game, and that was Denver towards the end. And the first half, you saw both in the first half, you did see Bo Nix really make a stride, but he really struggled in the end, had a sloppy game, which would be the last game of his season. So it wasn't exactly a powerhouse game per se, but the harsh weather conditions played an effect, and I think Denver just forced Buffalo to have so many mistakes. And now we talk about what's the future for Buffalo. And in my opinion, it's time for a change. This is now 7 losses in the McDermott era, the 3 overtime losses. The fact that the Bills and the Ravens fans keep getting teased all the time with these late games, these late playoff games, and always on the losing side of it. It's frustrating. And I think they should do what the Baltimore Ravens did, and we'll have our final coaching change, final coaching transition, if you will. I think McDermott, I think it's just time for a new voice. And especially the GM, you gotta get somebody who could get proper receivers for the Bills, who won't get in trouble and who will be that dynamic force. Every quarterback always had their one receiver, with the exception of Brady. Almost all these quarterbacks have their special receivers, their special weapons to help make them great. Montana to Rice and Shannon Sharp and John Elway, Eli and Amani Toomer. The list goes on and on. Hines Ward and Ben Roethlisberger. And Josh Allen's never had that. Gabe Davis thought for a second he might have, then he gets traded, then he comes back, gets hurt in the wild card game. Khalil Shakir, I guess, could be that person too, but well, he could turn himself into a top 10 receiver. I just don't think he's on that level yet, or just on the cusp of it. But yeah, ultimately, a lot of major changes have to happen in Buffalo. This is a good time to do it. They're about to go into a new stadium next year. And I think this country really wants to see Allen prove himself. The thing everybody was talking about everywhere was, well, no Burrow, no Lamar, no Mahomes in the playoffs. This is Josh Allen's time, and he will not be playing in the AFC Championship. So, tough pill to swallow, but ultimately, it's Denver's turn. Now, I think Denver is more defined by their defense. Bo Nix is still holding his own in his sophomore season. Very impressive. He could get his team to the AFC Championship too. Sean Payton is doing what he exactly was brought in to do. And now we just have Jared Stidham in his fourth career start the AFC Championship against his old team. And we'll talk later in the week on where we see that going. So, heartbreak for Buffalo. Time to change it up. And a stellar defense got Denver to where they needed to be towards the end. And ultimately, the last but not least, this game unfortunately is going to be defined by its two big calls. I don't like that was the case. You don't want the refs deciding these games. You don't want the refs to make an impact, and this is exactly what happened. These calls questionable, weird, especially the McMillan interception, where it seemed like it was a catch or a dropped pass, or it was a catch, then it was dropped instead of a fumble. But it'll be a what if for the rest of time. So ugly stuff. The officials really haven't been that bag of it. The officials really haven't been that much of a factor in these playoffs, but in this game they are. And luckily, I feel with the other three games, no egregious calls were made. But this will be the one where the refs made the most impact. Now let's go to the Seahawks and the 49ers. It was a beatdown, if you will, almost like a Legion of Boom throwback. The top seeded Seattle Seahawks didn't just win, they dominated, they dismantled, they embarrassed their division rivals, and they are heading to the AFC Championship for the first time since 2014. And they are going to ride off in the sunset with this win. They defeated the San Francisco 49ers by a score of 41-6. Rashid Shaheed set the tone of the game, returning the opening kickoff for 95 yards for a touchdown just 13 seconds into the game, the longest postseason kick return in franchise history. And it was the running game that made the biggest impact. Sam Darnold with the oblique injury, you need the running game to step up. And Kenneth Walker III had his legacy game, if you will. Bro ran for 116 yards, had 3 touchdowns, tying a playoff record by the great Sean Alexander. And as we talked about defense, they are coining this the dark side defense. They lived up to their name. They forced 3 turnovers and held Brock Purdy to just 140 passing yards. And that was and Sam Darnold set the tone in his game as well. Nothing too crazy, nothing too flashy. Did get a touchdown to JSN, but it was all about the running game. And you knew going into this game that the fact that the 49ers, with their injuries, which we've talked about again and again and again, especially on defense, that their that their running defense was going to be a major problem with no Nick Bosa, no Fred Warner. And well, we got the result that we got. They just could not stop them whatsoever. And the they could not stop them whatsoever. They had no chance. And Brock Purdy, he had his moments. There were times where he was actually pretty well protected with the return of Trent Williams. And then if he wasn't stepping up, then bro was running for his life. Bro was running for his life. Made some weird throws, some questionable throws, and I think bro had a tough game. No Kittle in this one. And I feel like the 49er fans, with all the injuries, this controversy with the electric magnetic field, that they knew if they were going to host the Super Bowl, it was going to be a tough one because they had just so many holes that I don't want to speak out of line or out of turn, but maybe they felt that they were happy, or at least they were put out of their misery with this loss. And the spread was -7, so people thought that they were gonna hang. Some people even said that the 49ers could at least cover like what was going on with Sam Darnold. And it seems like he was fine. What, 12 for 17, threw a throwing touchdown off the top of my head, like 150 yards. You'll take that. And when you get to a point where Drew Lock can come in a playoff game, you are in a good place. And if there's anything else to get out of this game, that the Seahawks are the best team of the four that are remaining. And Sam Darnold got his first career playoff victory. Sam Darnold beating allegations that he can't step up in a big game. He did just exactly that. And I am intrigued by the matchup. We saw a thrilling game between the Rams and the Seahawks earlier this season. They've won one and lost one each. Now the tiebreaker will decide who's going to the Super Bowl. That's gonna be a fun game to watch. But this running game looks elite. Even though he had a quiet game, Chardonnay still a great 1-2 punch with the running backs, with that running back, with that running offense. Obviously, Jay Assed's a great player, underrated tight end. Sam Darnold could play. Their defense rushes the quarterback. Their defense also, their secondary hits balls down and doesn't allow a lot of separation for receivers. And they create a lot of pressure. And yeah, it's pretty obvious that the Seattle Seahawks are the team to beat. This is their Super Bowl to win again. And if they can revitalize, who would have thought, with Mike McDonald, who not a lot of people have talked about since he got hired last year. Seems like a nice guy, generic guy, but bro has been producing good defenses for the Seahawks. The smart decision to move on from Geno and put in Sam Darnold, and maybe they finally figured it out. So I wouldn't be surprised if a week from tonight, where we're talking about them representing the NFC in the Super Bowl, can't be that surprised. So 49ers, the season can finally come to an end. The mess with Ayuk, no Bosa, no Warner, no Kittle twice. They had to make quarterback changes. Debo leaves. Juwan Jennings steps up in a good way for this offense, but they need a lot of changes. They need to clearly leave that practice facility, and I think everything's going to be a-okay for San Francisco in the future, and things will be really great for Seattle. So once again, Seattle wins 41-6. Now let's go into the Sunday games. The Patriots and the Texans, right? This was a hard one to watch. But ultimately, the New England Patriots win by a score of 28-16. A sloppy in the snow showdown at Gillette Stadium. The Patriots defense overcame their own offensive miscues to punch their ticket to the AFC Championship. Despite 8 total turnovers in this game, Mike Vrabel's defense stifled CJ Stroud, sending the Patriots to their first conference title game since 2018. And what I got here, what I think matters the most first, It was just so sloppy for both. It was cringe. There was the snow, the sleet, the rain, the freezing temperature. That would have been a hard game to see in person. But obviously, if you're a Pats fan, you're thrilled. But I think what set the tone was when Houston was leading 10-7 in the second quarter. Marcus Jones intercepted a hurried C.J. Stroud pass and returned it for 26 yards for a touchdown. That's swung the momentum for New England's favor. When it was 21-16 Patriots in the fourth quarter, Drake May threw a very difficult pass to Keisha Butte, but he ultimately made the play. He got a big 32-yard touchdown pass, a one-handed catch, if you will, too, a snapshot moment, and posterized himself, and that pretty much sealed the deal. That was the nail in the coffin. But even though this game will be remembered as a messy one, historically messy, Drake May fumbled 4 times, while C.J. Stroud threw for 4 interceptions, most by any Texas quarterback in playoff history. And that's where we're at. I think this game we remember C.J. Stroud, maybe his worst game ever. Worst game I've seen him ever play. 20 for 47, 212 yards, 1 touchdown, but 4 interceptions. And he was pressured in over 44% of his dropbacks. Drake May, pretty modest game, pretty well. 60 for 27, 3 touchdowns, and 179 yards and an interception. But the 4 fumbles killed you. And he lost 2 of them. And now that the now that the Texans are now 0-7 in the divisional round. No Nico Collins was a killer for them. And CJ Stroud, I mean, it seems like so many times, bro, would just fling it out there, just beep, beep, beep. Whoever's going to catch the ball is gonna catch the ball. That's the vibe I got from that was the offensive plan, if you will. So, and ultimately it was who had more mistakes. So many drop passes who had more mistakes, and it was the Texans. Texans had so many drop passes. They were sloppy, slipping all over the place. And while the Patriots didn't do much better, they at least minimized their mistakes. Used to this type of environment, if you will. But I mean, it was a nasty football game. That was not fun to watch. And I was happy when it was over. It was pretty much over by the Butte one-handed touchdown pass. And yeah, good thing it was over from there. And we can finally take a break and breathe and get through it. So the Texans, such a great defense, where they gave up for 28 points today. And while I think the weather really had a lot to do with the mishaps today, a lot to do it was just the team who prepared the most for it. And that offense had no hope whatsoever. The running game was awful. Couldn't get the ball down the field. C.J. Stroud looked so nervous, popping his eyes out. He was lost out there. And we know what happened. And now the Patriots are going to go to Denver to fight for an AFC Championship, 3:30 Sunday afternoon. That's going to be fun. And then why don't we wrap it up with our last game? The Rams and the Bears, the other overtime battle between these two franchises. A masterclass in postseason tension in a game defined by gritty defense and high-stake fourth quarter gambles. The Rams silence a rowdy Soldier Field in overtime. They win by a score of 20-17. While Caleb Williams had one of the best plays you'll ever see, one of the best plays you'll ever see. If that huge drop back to throw for a touchdown at the end of the fourth, then in overtime, driving down the field, then that crucial interception killed it. Rams down the field and get the game-winning field goal from there. But that was the play of the game. But the no-way heave, I'm hearing what they're calling it, Trailing 17-10 with 20 seconds left, Caleb Williams escaped a heavy pass rush, retreated to the 40-yard line, and threw a desperate off-platform fadeaway that traveled over 50 yards into Cole Kmet's hands, and that led to the game-tying touchdown to force overtime. After Chicago's defense forced a 3-and-out to start overtime, the Bears had the ball at midfield with a chance to win. However, Caleb Williams overthrew DJ Moore and threw it to Rams safety Cam Curl with the diving interception. And they marched down the field to get the game-winning field goal from there. Kira Williams was the engine for LA. Scoring both touchdowns in regulation, and set the tone. He had some solid blocks in this game too for the other running backs to go down the field. But yeah, the thicker kicker is what they tell me his name is. Harrison Mevis hit the uprights for a 42-yarder to win the game. Caleb Williams, impressive 23 for 42, 257 yards, 2 touchdowns. But he did have 3 he did have 3 interceptions. Matthew Stafford, he went 20 for 42, 258 yards. Did throw a touchdown, but was able to bring the ball down the field and get the ball down for Puka and Devontae Adams. And it was Kieran Williams who made the most impact, 21 carries for 87 yards. The Bears went for a fourth down 3 times. The Bears The Bears went for a fourth down conversion 3 times in the first half alone, and it was pretty crazy, if you will. And ultimately, those 4 conversions, I don't think any of them hit. But that's what this aggressive Chicago Bears offense is going to do. Listen, the Bears wound up covering. They kept it close. Another fourth quarter comeback, but they couldn't seal the deal, which is thumbs down on that one. And for the Rams, they were up by 16 at one point, and they almost lost this game too. This Rams team, you could not feel comfortable with the lead. Almost blew it against Carolina, now almost blew it against Chicago. And now you're playing a team much better than the both of them. So if they want to win this game next week, you got to have poise, march that clock down, use that running game efficiently, which is what they did today. And this defense did show some weaknesses and show some holes, especially the secondary. But luckily, Caleb Williams just made that mistake, maybe a little too excited, that overthrowing DJ Moore that led to the interception. And now we're at where we are. All I can tell you, though, is Caleb Williams has earned the respect from the NFL, its community, and the sports world. They need to make some improvements, and I'm pretty sure they will. Ben Johnson is the guy to lead this team to go even deeper, hopefully next year in the playoffs, make it to the NFC Championship, but who knows, maybe represent the NFC. But they have a great future with Monungai, who was a great running back this year. Obviously, the weapons have stepped up, especially DJ Moore towards the end of the season. And just make some improvements in the secondary on defense. And I think you will be cooking for the Bears. As for the Rams, another close one with the MVP playing so-so, but in crunch time, they made it work. And I'm excited to see where it leads next week. But that was a fun game. This was a fun recap. We will be back on Thursday to preview the AFC and NFC Championships. Seahawks versus Rams, Seahawks versus Rams, Patriots versus Broncos. Spoiler for me, I personally would like to see a Rams and Broncos Super Bowl. No, I don't. I want to see a Rams and Patriots Super Bowl, but I wouldn't be disappointed either way. But we'll do our research throughout the week. We'll see how we feel, and we'll make our picks on Thursday. But fun stuff, entertaining weekend. It was a god-awful weekend weather-wise here in the Northeast. So it was kind of perfect that you got to stay home to watch football. And yeah, 3 more games left, and then that's it. It's been a great ride. Not over yet, but so glad we got to this point. So we'll say our prayers, make our thanks. Let's have a good week, everybody. And I will see you back here on this channel and this feed on Tuesday. On Monday night, you will see me here again on Monday night to react to the College Football National Championship. That will be available on late Monday night, early Tuesday morning. Then on Tuesday as well, we have our tweet cap to discuss what was trending over the past weekend in everything non-sports, really, in news, entertainment, and culture. Little sports in there, of course, but we will have that ready for you on Tuesday. Wednesday, we will have a preview of UFC 324. Thursday, we will have a preview of the conference championships for the NFL. Then on Friday, we will have another tweet cap to talk about what's trending in the week ahead. So I hope it's a good week. All the love, everybody, and I will see you all very, very soon. My name is Matt Brown. I am the host of the Productive Conversations podcast, and I hope you all have a great week. One final time, your AFC and NFC championships are the Denver Broncos versus the New England Patriots and the LA Rams versus the Seattle Seahawks.